Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'm really thrilled about our guest today. She is a global Golden Globe winner, Oscar-nominated actress that has been the voice of millions and millions of people as an active fundraiser for AMFAR. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my next guest, actress, philanthropist, the ultimate movie star, Sharon Stone. Welcome, Sharon. Thank you for doing this.
It's such a pleasure to see your beautiful face, honey. Hi.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I mean, we've been self-quarantining here for about 35 days, I guess. So good. I became a much better cook.
You've been cooking?
I've been cooking every night. I have 2 teenage boys here, so they've been eating me out of house and home.
And I also saw that you've been painting.
Yeah.
That was really amazing. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I'm an art student in college, and I didn't paint for so long, and so I started with these adult paint by number kits. And then a couple days ago, I just busted out and started painting again.
Did you do a rose? Was that a rose that I saw?
I did peonies, and then I'm doing this other flower painting, and then I just started doing portraits a couple days ago.
God, what can you not do, Sharon? Because as everyone should know, you've got an extremely, okay, let's start. Well, Sharon's got one of the highest IQs of all time. And I remember always hearing that about you before I met you. But I tried to think yesterday, where did we meet? And my memory, maybe you tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think I first saw you in the flesh at Valentino's show when you did the finale in the silver dress with the roses, with the flowers, and with
right.
Would you say that'd be the first time?
It could have been, although, did you do Terry Mugler?
I did.
Because
I don't know which one. I did, yeah.
A long time ago, I did Terry Mugler here, and I think you were in that show, but I don't think I met you.
In LA?
In LA. He did a huge show here, and I walked the finale with a bunch of you guys, but I was like the little midget in the middle with you and all the really great
beauties. Oh my God, I don't remember that, but those shows were wild, Terry Mugler shows. They were wild. Hundreds of us.
I had 3 wins.
Yeah, they were really shows, you know what I mean?
Real shows.
Such a mixture. Yeah. And then my other memory of you, the one that really stays close to me in my heart that I'm fond of, was in Cannes. I got to meet you in 1994 at Mougins. That's when Elizabeth Taylor used to come, but you hosted that night. Yes. And my memory of you, there's no one, I don't care if you have Sotheby's and all these auctioneers. I think you are the most incredible and the best auctioneer I've ever met, because you get them to just give and give. It's a Sharon Stone effect, I call it. Can you tell me about that?
A lot of money. When the first time that Dr. Krim asked me to fill in for Elizabeth, I was terrified. And you were so kind to me. We had to raise money, and we had, I think, one thing to sell. We had an art sculpture. And I asked you, the Sultan of Brunei wanted to see your navel ring. And I said, would you show it to him? But you were like, well, I don't want to be on my own. So I made the whole room turn their backs in a circle.
You covered me.
Yes, and then I covered you, and then you got in the middle of the room, and we raised, I don't remember, he gave so much money, hundreds of thousands.
He was very gracious, wasn't he?
So lovely. And he gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to Amphar, and you showed him your navel ring.
And I got to keep it.
And you got to keep it, and you just showed him your navel ring, and he was thrilled.
I think we were there with Linda Evangelista, and it was for Unzipped that we were there. I mean, it was all for a good cause.
It was amazing, and that night we made money, but that was my first night doing it, and you were so gracious and so kind. And that was the first night, and we made a few $100,000.
Yeah, we did.
The last time that I did it, we made $34 million.
My God.
Yeah.
And this was in Cannes.
Yeah.
Because then you also did Cannes, but then you started to travel around the world. So what were the other cities that you did?
We went to Dallas. We did Dallas 2x2. We went to Brazil. We went to Dubai. We went all over the world. It went from being the Amphar United States to being a global Amphar scenario. And I retired from Amphar a couple years ago over this Weinstein affair.
I did too. I stopped right there. Exact same thing. I stopped there. My lawyer said, time to take your name off. I did it for 24 years, but
yeah, me too.
I moved myself.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop us in our heart for still wanting the cure for AIDS and still doing it for other
No, I still work with
organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, I still work with Elton, and I'll still work with other people, but I think that at a certain point, that organization for me needs time to reboot their board and
reorganize themselves, get their priorities straight, be a bit more transparent. Yeah, I totally agree. So Sharon Stone. Then the very first time I saw you on the screen was Total Recall. I mean, the outfit, I think, is timeless.
I have to say, it was a lot of time in the gym. If you're going to fight Arnold Schwarzenegger, you definitely move into the gym. I did karate 3 times a week. I did taekwondo. I did then circuit training. I worked at this gym called Eaton's Gym, which is just like a hole. Not
so
like
how many months did you take to prepare for that role, physically?
Yeah.
How many months do you think?
Pounds of muscle.
20 pounds of muscle.
I went from 125 to 145.
Now, what was it like on set with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
You know, it was good. Because I trained with them. I continued to go to the gym, and Arnold let me work with his trainer, Joel. And, you know, it's a lot of hard work to be fit like that. I mean, I saw you and Cindy talking about the fitness of modeling, and I've been modeling now for 43 years.
When you came to New York, you came to model, right?
Right. And it's, you know, now, as you guys were saying, like I used to go on trips, like I'd get to go to Tahiti, to Bora Bora, to do pearls. And, you know, you'd stand in the water for 4 days with pearls and lots of nice suntan makeup. And it was fantastic fun. Now you go on a set and you are shooting 15, 20 changes in a day.
Yes, they're fast. No time.
And when you're and wearing, you know, gigantic heels, and I have size 8 feet, and most of the shoes are big. So I'm whipping through these clothes and shorts that the legs are maybe this long, and gigantic heels that are too big for me, and you're moving and dancing, and I mean, at the end of the day, you feel like you've been beaten to death. You know,
you're in pain. Absolutely.
You know, you are. Your ribs go out, your back goes out, your jaw goes out. You really have to pull yourself together at the end of these days, and you have to stay so loose and so fit.
I can't wear platforms. I'm no good in platforms. I mean, I had to really, when I put them on, I've just got to stay in a stationary place. I can't go too far. And personally, in my personal life, I had to put platforms out of my closet.
Right.
Just no good. The balance was not.
I'm doing squats now at night. I do a lot of yoga it really gives me a lot of strength training. Mm-hmm. And I do some exercises when I'm in the tub, when I let the water down to about this much, mm-hmm. and I do some sit-ups and some leg exercises, and I stand and do legs against the resistance of the water.
Which is amazing. It's a great therapy, because when I had a knee surgery, mm-hmm. and the best that I remember of the physical, when you have to do physical rehabilitation, that was the best part, was in the water. It's fast, yeah.
And now I read an article that there's a really good home training is squats. So I'm doing a bunch of the squats with your arms out at night, because that is helping me, because we just can't get to the gym now.
No, we got to do it ourselves. I'm working out with my trainer. He's on FaceTime, and right. We're here, and we're just, I've got a few weights here, small things. So if not, I'm just picking up whatever I need to in the house that just gives a bit of resistance. But I basically just do circuit training.
Yes, I don't think that people realize what an athletic endeavor modeling is. I don't think people realize how really hard it is on the body, and particularly because the clothes never fit you, and you have to move them around to make them look fantastic, right?
It's true. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had a few other surgeries I've had to deal with from, just wear and tear over the years with the body. Right. I wanted to ask you, what was it like being on set with Barbie, Joe, Marty? Ginger McKenna was a role that the whole fashion industry just absolutely was just like gagging about. It was
wonderful. It was
plus your Oscar nomination for Casino also, no?
Yeah, it was great for me. It was, it was a dream come true. I always wanted to work with Scorsese, and I always wanted to work with Bob, because, that's it. That's, for me, the pinnacle of greatness. And when I first came, I think they were kind of their group, and they would sort of rehearse and block and then bring me in. And it took a while for me to really insist with Marty that he considered me in the group and pushed me just as hard and included me just as much. I had to really push him and insist and beg and prove myself to become a part of the big group. And then once I did, the work was incredibly hard and incredibly long. And the hours, because we were in Vegas, were sometimes 18 to 23, 24 hours, because we could get in the casinos only when the whales weren't gambling. And then we'd go home, and if we got back in, it could be 6 or 8 hours, and we'd have to come back. We didn't have regular hours, so it was phenomenally exhausting, but worth every second.
But worth it. Yes. And so tell me, after your nomination on Casino, I mean, do you feel like on that set that you had to, as a woman, really like stand for your rights and
yes.
having to be included and treated the same as the boys?
Well, yeah, I mean, these aren't your regular boys either.
No, they're not.
They're the real top
creme de la creme, top, yes, of course.
They're the top actors, and they're as tough as they seem. They really can deliver and keep going and stay with it and handle the material, and they are the finest actors and the greatest professionals and the toughest of tough guys. So you really have to handle yourself.
Keep it up. I want to ask you something. If you were running this country, I'm not going to say the president of the United States. I'm going to say the president of the World Health Organization. What would you have done differently than what we're in right now in this borderless world? Because we have to say borderless. So my friend Aria told me to ask you this question. Because, you know, we're all together in this. What would you have done differently? Because I'm looking at your Instagram. I'm seeing you have a very strong point of view on how you feel.
Well, first of all, we have to take into consideration that, like you, I spent over 20 years, probably more like 25, 26 years, because before I was with AMFAR, I worked with other AIDS organizations like Elizabeth Glazier and other things before. I went to the Dominican Republic and helped there before. So I've been a long time as an AIDS worker. And I have found this to be devastatingly similar to the AIDS crisis, only going in rapid motion, while the AIDS crisis went in slow motion, but a very similar chain of events. And so when this started coming, I had a pretty good understanding of what was happening. When I saw John Dempsey at Elton's Oscar party.
Yeah, I just spoke to John actually 2 days ago. He's wonderful.
He's wonderful. And I just looked at his face and he said, 40% of our business is crashing and I'm losing friends in China. And I looked at him and I realized, oh my God, this is about to become a global epidemic.
And this was in February.
Yeah. And I asked the wait staff to bring me some hand sanitizers. And I freaked out at the party. And I kept washing my hands. And I came home and I unzipped my dress. And I took it off inside out, put it in a plastic bag, tied it in a knot, got in the shower, took everything off, called my lawyer, canceled my global events. The people said they were going to sue me, and I said, they won't. And my lawyer said, oh, they're going to. And I said, they won't have time to. It will be okay. And my lawyer said, oh, no, it's going to be terrible. I'm like, don't worry about it. But we can't.
Lawyers always, but I totally identify with what you're saying, because I was in a situation where I was in Paris and I had a full schedule and I just arrived there from the Middle East, and I said, I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, first plane out. They're like, what? I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm not staying here. This makes no sense. Look what's going on in the world. You think I want to be pinned and touched and fixed, and no, I have to leave. Right. So I totally identify with what you're saying.
Right, and because we've been in it so much and we've seen it on a global level, we had a bigger understanding. But to try to tell other people, people would not listen to me. And I took my kids out of school early. I started self-quarantining early.
But people are thinking you're being ridiculous when you're being proactive and preventative. I call that smart. Sharon.
Right. And friends and other people were upset with me. I had some issues in the beginning of resistance.
Now, I heard you had your 60th birthday also. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
But I heard that when people arrived, you had, and I think it's fantastic. I hope you don't mind me saying this.
I had a
check their
doctor
temperature.
and a nurse. I had a doctor and a nurse come early and check all of the catering people and the wait staff as they arrived to make sure none of the food and none of the people working there were fevering or ill. And then I had a nurse at the door taking everyone's temperature. And this was March 8th.
Amazing.
Because I just thought we have to really be super careful
You're
right up.
absolutely right. You're right. I mean, I have two of my friends that were there, and they said to me, Naomi, I said, but she's right. I said, that is so smart to do that.
Yeah.
You know,
People thought
because
it was a little extreme and that I was a little crazy.
you thought I would never think that it was. I've done the same thing. She's extreme from wearing a hazmat suit. She's extreme for wiping down the plane. But that's how we feel comfortable, right?
Well, you know, I'm a person who in the beginning went into the laboratories in a hazmat suit and looked at the AIDS virus under a microscope. Right. I was the person taking the AIDS virus out of freezers and studying it under a microscope with scientists. I'm a person who could not get people to listen to the reasons why this was not going to be some gay-related immune deficiency disease. This was going to be a global crisis. And when I went to the United Nations, when 11 million people were affected with AIDS and told the truth, they didn't want me to come back unless I let them write my speeches because I was so insistent about how we had to handle it. So if I was handling this, yes, I would have handled it far differently. I would have had all 50 states doing the exact same thing because we are meant to be a United States. Yeah. I would have had us on the same protocol, right up front. I would have had self-quarantining as a mandatory event right up front and shut us down immediately, right when we started to understand what was happening even in Italy, so that we could have had a global understanding that we were the leaders that America is meant to be. I would have demonstrated a United States creating a united front as a leadership of a first world country.
Yes.
That would be extremely important to me, but I have, 2.5 decades of leadership with infectious disease. Yes, and I understand how infectious disease and human beings, Now
I know you've also, I don't know if many people know this, but you were asked to be the host of the Nobel Peace Prize. And I believe it was in 2000, was that in 2011 or 2009?
I think it was like 2009, I hosted the Nobel Peace Prize concert. Right. And then I hosted, and then I got to interview Muhammad Yunus when he won the Nobel Peace Prize for microloans, which is going to be extremely important in the very near future, because we're going to be looking at not only restarting the world economically from a global perspective, and Eunice will be out there doing microloans on a bigger global level now, of course, getting people started again. But we're going to be looking at microloans from another perspective too, because we've had 4 to 5 crop rotations in Africa that have been destroyed by locusts. And then now
I was just about to say, I hope that they're going to include Africa in microloans.
Well, they are, because we also have these locusts coming into our country. We've had a huge locust issue in Las Vegas. So we know we're going to have a food crisis impending as a result of this. It's not just corona or COVID virus. We have the locusts, so we're going to have food shortages on top of this, because we have people reacting differently about food because of COVID. The panic and the fear that's created by COVID is creating a food hoarding situation. There's no food on the shelves in the supermarket, and then we're moving into a food crisis. So we're going to need Eunice to be doing the microloans.
Now tell me, your friend, I want to say my condolences to you, because I understand that one of your friends that actually also won a Nobel Peace Prize, Betty Williams, passed away.
Like my godmother. Yeah.
Your godmother.
Well,
Excuse me.
yeah, she became very dear to me, and fortunately, my other dear friend who was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, Enzo Curcio, he was nominated last year for the Nobel Peace Prize for creating the nuclear peace disarmament conference at the Vatican between us and North Korea. He and I went to visit Betty in January. And we spent a week with her in Ireland, which was very beautiful, and I feel very blessed that we got to do that. So I got to see her before she passed, because passing during this virus time, no one gets to do anything. You don't even get to be at the hospital or have a funeral or say goodbye or anything.
It's yeah, it's hard. It's tough. The things we normally would get on a plane and want to be there.
Their loved ones.
I hear you. My condolences again.
Thank you.
So tell me something. You have two boys, two
Three.
teenage boys, three boys. Sorry.
I have three boys. One is visiting his dad and stepmom. Went up the weekend right before this all began.
So is he back with you now?
No, he's in San Francisco with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So three boys. So what's it like? You're the woman of the house.
Well, they get up and do homework. They get up and do school in the morning.
Yeah.
Then we just got finished with spring break, which was so great, because, you know, family is different in America than it is in Europe. And we had more like a European family time, just cooking and hanging and that really loving being together. It's been so nice. And I've really enjoyed, you know, we get busy and we don't do that family cooking, sitting.
Quality time.
Yes, where
Extended quality time. It's important.
It's been so great. The cooking together has been wonderful, just wonderful.
Now, we share a lot of friends. We were talking earlier before we started about Mr. Valentino.
I miss him so much.
I mean, I'm sure you're going to be hearing from Giancarlo. I got a message yesterday. I'm sure you'll be getting one soon, or if not, got one in your inbox. I know his birthday's coming up.
So. I love them. I love
I'm not
Giancarlo.
sure. I'm thinking that Mr. Valentino is our Don in the fashion world of designers. He is. He is the elder. And so we have to cherish him.
God rest Carl's soul. I really suffered when Carl died.
I suffered more when Azadine died, because Azadine was really a father figure to me, and that was such a shock, very unexpected, and but it's strengthened me now. It's given me I get a lot of strength from him. So.
Do you feel him around you?
I very much so do. I feel him very strongly. I do feel him. It's like, you know, a couple of times I'm like, I want to go out. I've been also 35 days, and I hear Papa in my mind saying, "Ma fille, reste pas bouger, pas mouver." I'm like, okay, I'll stay in. I'm not gonna go. Even for a walk, nope, I'm not gonna do it. You know, I feel him strongly, yeah. And so today I wore a T-shirt. It's an interpretation. The reason why I wore this T-shirt, Sharon, is because what you did at those Oscars, it was that, I mean, Gap could not have asked for better advertising than that. Please, can you tell me about how that all happened to be? Did you have another outfit planned? Or
Two.
So tell us.
Vera, who has been my friend forever, was making me two dresses. And we were trying to make one out of this Fortuny fabric, and it kept stretching and changing and moving. So we weren't quite sure it was going to totally come together, but we were experimenting. and we were making this other great dress, this pink dress, and it came, and the FedEx guy dropped it out of the back of his truck and backed over it. And
no way.
The box broke open, and the dress had a black tire track down the whole front of the dress the day before the Oscars. So I was so...
That's a problem.
Because I was nominated. And, you know, that's the biggest thing that can ever happen when you're a little actress and you get to work with Bob and Marty. And I just couldn't believe that, okay, I finally made it to this big moment in my career. And the guy...
And now my dress. What's happened to my dress?
There's a big tire track down my dress. So I started to panic, and I had my then driver and bodyguard, Kristen Marshall, and who also passed away from neuroendocrine cancer.
I'm so sorry.
Devastating. She went and found Ellen Moroznik, who was my costumer on Basic Instinct. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Ellen, you have to come over. I am so screwed. And she just looked at the dress, and she looked at me, and she was like, go get your favorite clothes out of the closet. And I'm like, my favorite clothes? I don't have any now. My favorite clothes? She's just like, get anything. It doesn't matter what it is. So I thought, well, I'll just get everything black. So I just started bringing out, I had like a really cool jacket from the 20s that was beaded but falling apart. Like I had all these things, and I just kept throwing them on the bedroom floor. And she just kept sitting there looking at them like it was a science problem. And she eventually started putting things together. And so we put together this Gap shirt and a ready-to-wear Valentino skirt from that.
I remember it. Beautiful, very fitted.
Yeah, right. And then I had this Armani tuxedo dress that I wore as a jacket. And I picked a gardenia out of the garden, and that was it.
And that was it. And that was, the rest is history.
Oh, and I got ready to go, and I was pinning my hair, and my mother went, oh shit! And the armpit of my shirt was ripped out. And I was getting ready to run out the door, and she was sewing my t-shirt clothes. As I was walking out to the limousine, she's walking with me, sewing my t-shirt clothes. Yes.
Well,
and then I go to get in the car, and my mother's standing by the car window, and the last thing I hear as I'm driving out the driveway is my mother goes, God damn, Susan Sarandon. And my mother's so psychic, and I realized, oh, I'm not going to win.
No!
Yes, on the way out the driveway. And I thought, oh, at least I know. I don't have to sit in the audience and be nervous.
Well, you listen, you grabbed every headline anyway. You just
it was so good.
It was just like...
Gave me the heads up on the way out.
I mean, surely that all these artists must have been like afterwards, oh my God, what are we going to do? Sharon Stone just wore a Gap t-shirt on stage and down the red carpet, and it's gotten all this press. It's just completely sidetracked in everything that we've done in terms of do these custom-made dresses, and oh my goodness. And so, of course, I've had people send questions in because, Sharon Stone, and, they're going to ask, how did it happen to be that famous scene in Basic Instinct?
I've talked about it, and now I've written a book.
Is it coming out?
Either by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. It's called The Beauty of Living Twice. You can read about it there.
Okay. So, right, Sharon, maybe we can have a part 2 for when the book comes out. When we're out of lockdown, we'd love to do a part 2, because then we can go and talk about what's in the book.
Okay.
Okay, I'd love that. Other friends we have is Francois Nars. We share in common Quincy Jones, Poppy, who I think you were on stage with at the Oscars when you wore your T-shirt.
Oh, with Quincy.
Yes. I think that's
Yes.
who you were next to Quincy, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
I was. Yes. Then I had that crisis where I didn't have the name of the next winner because we were presenting for two. I presented the one, then I gave that person the card that says who's nominated, and I accidentally gave them the next card too. And so it was
Oh my
time.
God, so they
had it, and I didn't have the next nominees.
now,
So not
as
only
a
did I not
child,
have the press, I didn't have the nominees. I had a major kind of like, I guess the moon or something was in retrograde that day.
as a child, we've always heard, I would just want you to explain it to me so I can get this. Were you ahead of your grades in school?
Yeah,
You were?
yeah. Yeah, when
So
I was
you're-
little, my mother thought I was like a peculiar kid. And so she took me to the courthouse to get an IQ test. And so they started me when I was 5 in the second grade. And that was sort of disquieting for my second grade teacher and the other kids because I was teaching them to write in cursive and do math problems, and so I wasn't fitting in socially. So halfway through the year they decided to put me back in first grade, and of course that didn't really work out either. So then by the time I was in about, I think, third grade, they started having these special programs at my school where they were teaching speed reading and other little game tests, and they took a group of us out of regular classes, and for 3 years we did this other kind of school. And then when I was 15, we did all these tests at school, and then a group of us went to college while we went to high school.
Right.
And then when I was a little bit older, I just went to university full time.
Well, we've always understood your IQ is extremely. Now, I read something very funny you were on the cover of German Vogue recently,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful cover and a great celebration of you. And I read that you said, that you'd put, what was that? Is it like a website for, that you put your name and they didn't believe you?
Oh, I went on a dating website.
Yes.
And
I want to know about that.
And I think that when I didn't say yes to a couple of guys, they said they didn't think it was me.
So tell me, what do you mean? You had a couple of requests come through.
Well, it's a
How does
site
it work? Because I've never done one of these things. I want to know how it works. I'm interested.
It's actually kind of fun, to tell you the truth. I had done one that was for people in my business, supposedly, called Raya. And I didn't think that went so great. I didn't think it was as honest as it could have been. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to go on a regular one, but I picked one where women pick the guy, not where the guy picks the women.
I see.
Right? So you pick a guy and then you talk to them, and then if you want to meet them or FaceTime or anything, you can. Yeah. But then, I talked to a couple guys and they were like, well, it isn't you. And I'm like, well, tough.
Well, I mean,
I don't have to prove myself.
Exactly. How do I expect you to prove yourself? You already said.
Well, I think it's more of
intimidation?
Who knows? But I just said, okay then, and I disconnected from them. So I think that's how it began, that it must not be me. But then I thought, well, this is really not my problem. But then the dating site disconnected me because they decided that it wasn't me. So
the dating site then disconnected you?
Yes.
I mean, don't you go through when you're like a kind of, I don't know, like a vetting in the beginning, so they I mean, how does that work? So it
Well,
sounds like it's...
exactly. So I went on my own internet site and said, it is me, and you shouldn't be disconnecting me. So then I went back on it, and I'm still doing it, and I'm still meeting and talking to people. And it's actually pretty interesting during this time because no one can actually go out and meet anybody. So people
No one can touch.
Right. So people are behaving now in a more, in my opinion, more authentic way than they were before, because
They're
they
not
have
behind a shield. No, they're being more honest to true to
yes,
themselves.
because they have to be at home and they have to talk and they have to surrender to an actual process of talking to somebody because they can't just push.
Yeah.
And I find the authentic, it's a little more, I said Dickinsonian the other day, because it's like you have to write letters, you have to expose yourself, you have to say who you are, you have to engage. And it gives an opportunity to actually know someone a little bit more authentically. And so it's a little more interesting than it was before. And it's allowing me more time with myself, as I'm sure we're all getting to know ourselves better right now. And we're all getting to authentically, if we are single, think about what is it like to be alone and what would it be like to not be alone? And how do we feel about that honestly and truthfully?
Yeah.
What's that like? And do we want to be alone, or would we like to be with someone? And what would that be like? And what would I have to be? How would I have to be different? How would I have to be? And how would they have to be? And I think that everybody gets an opportunity to look at that about themselves right now. And I'm finding, yes, and I'm finding that to be actually a pretty wonderful part of this time. I'm finding.
I'm with you. I feel the same way.
Are you finding
it's a great time in that respect?
You're learning about you, right?
Lots, and learning. I've always said this, and this is something that Bob always told me, that being alone does not mean you're lonely.
Right.
And it's, it took me so many years he told me it when I was so young, and I could never quite get it. And then one day it just made so much sense.
Right.
And it's so true. And so, I'm very much in a place where all that you've just said makes sense, comfortable in my skin, embracing the unknown.
Right.
Ready to, open to it. Not going to have any expectations, but I'm not having any fears either.
It's also wonderful not to be validated by other things.
Yes.
So that you get to sort of come down and be in your own feet.
Mm-hmm.
Really stand centered in your own feet.
And be still.
And be still.
Because of course I've gone through my mind and said many times, the running that I do, I love all the places I get to go, and I love the things I'm doing, that I was doing, and hopefully will get back to doing. But there is a point when you say, are you running from anything? You have to check yourself from time to time. Mm-hmm. I don't feel I was, because it's things I would like that I love doing. But I would check in and say that to myself from time to time.
Well, it would be nice to feel like you might want to run home to something. I love running to my children, but I might like to want a feeling where there was something so embracive, so soothing and comforting that I wanted to run to a home of that. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel that those are the kind of things that people often offer to people like us.
Well, they think we have everything and we don't need anything, and it's like our life is perfect.
Offer a bunch of
superficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me give you
We don't want superficial. We want
No.
real
We
and
love to
simple
have a meal.
and balanced.
And
I want to say to you, what message? Because you're giving. I'm looking at you at your Instagram every night, and you're giving such amazing end of the pillow talk messages at the end of the days. And I'd love you just to give a little thoughts of how you feel right now, today, and how we should be, and staying home and staying safe and bringing down the numbers. And
well, what I think right now is that we have an opportunity to be in our, not just our home place, but in our home selves. And that there's a core self in all of us that has made us who we are. And that if we can get back to our core self and the core things that we love to do, whatever that is. I mean, frankly, I love to clean my house. And sometimes I love to take, right? And I love, don't you love the feel of taking warm clothes out of the dryer?
And the smell, and I love putting the bounce sheets inside.
And it feels so good.
Folding my towels, changing my bed. All of these simple things have made, I feel good. The Ajax, the Dettol.
Right? I feel really good. Like last night, I thought, I really love beef stroganoff. I'm going to figure out how to make it. I haven't made it in so long. Yeah. And it was just great.
Did you roll the little dumplings?
I didn't do the dumplings because I didn't have all the stuff, but I did, and I didn't have what I wanted to put it on. So I ended up putting it on rotini because I didn't have the way to make the potatoes. But I made the stroganoff itself, and it was great. I mean, we're going to have to improvise a little during this period, but it was great. And just like the painting for me, I wouldn't have taken this time to relearn how to do the brush strokes, to relearn how to move the watercolor around again. I wouldn't have taken this time. Just, it doesn't matter what time you go to sleep now. It doesn't matter if you stay up all night or get up in the morning or sleep in the afternoon. It doesn't matter. It matters what you do with yourself.
Nourish yourself.
Nourish yourself. If you love sweeping, go sweep something. If you love painting your walls, paint your wall a crazy color. If you love whatever, doing your dishes, just put on some music and do the dishes. It doesn't matter. If you want to clean your...
What I've been thinking about a lot is, you know, as we stay in our quarantine and isolation, I said, okay, I'm in day 35. But you imagine, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I picked up, this past weekend, I picked up The Long Walk to Freedom, the book of Nelson Mandela. And I haven't read that book since my 20s. And I picked it up and I'm in it, really in it now. And it's, everything's, I mean, it's like, it really, there's those books that you have to just keep reading again every 5 years. This is one of them. I mean, it's been longer because it really, to read this book now of someone that 27 years of their life was taken away.
You know,
strength.
He, you know, I'm sure he did this with you, but he called me my daughter. And nothing.
I was a granddaughter. Yeah.
He called me my daughter. And that's why I think one of the things, I'm going to look this up and I'm going to read this for us today, because I think that this is probably one of the great poems of all times. And this is what he read when he became president. He read the poem Invictus. So let me read this to you. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance. I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
That says it all.
That's why he's the guy.
Yeah, says it all. Sharon
That's why he's
Stone,
a great leader.
so grateful to have you today at No Filter. I'm so honored. Can we please do part 2 when your book comes out, which I can't wait to read, and to
Yes.
sit and talk to you. Hopefully we'll be out of lockdown and we can be in the same place together. But it would be nice just to be still in a living room, just someplace simple, you know?
Well, I hope
and
to see you in
I'm so
our
looking
living
forward to
room.
reading your book. And
Love you,
when I
darling.
come to the West Coast, I'm calling you.
Do it.
We promised a girls' time last time, and I didn't keep it up on my end, so I promised to.
Me too.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. Love you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.